Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Linda Streiskooth, a member with the League of Women Voters of Kitsap. The League of Women Voters does not support or oppose candidates and works to provide information about the candidates and issues before the voters. We are interviewing the candidates that will appear on your primary ballot, which you should receive in the mail around mid-July. We're asking each of them 3 questions. The candidates have 90 seconds to answer each question. Let's get to know Greg Wheeler. You will have 90 seconds to introduce yourself and tell us why you chose to run for the office of mayor for the city of Bremerton.
All right. Well, thank you, and good morning, and thank you, League of Women Voters, once again for hosting this candidate forum. So I'm Greg Wheeler, Bremerton's mayor, and just a little background about myself. I just want to let everybody know that I am a Bremertonian. I was raised in this city, and Bremerton is my heart and home. So after being raised here, I entered the United States Navy and served our country, came back home and worked in the Puget Sound Naval Shipyard. Over the course of my career, I became interested in serving my community, especially towards the end of my service to our country. And so became involved in the Planning Commission. I served with Linda in the Planning Commission, and then on to the City Council, where I was elected 3 times for the council, including 3 times as the council president. I ran for mayor because the people deserve a mayor who will represent their interests at City Hall. And I am that person, and I have taken those voices back with me to City Hall, and I have put what I have heard to work and put it into action. I'm the only candidate that hasn't been endorsed by the Suquamish tribe. Several Democratic leaders, including Commissioner Christine Rolfes, Senator Drew Hansen, Katie Walters, several labor unions, and a host of community leaders. And I've looked forward to serving. I'll stop right there.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. Now for our first question. Please share with us your top priorities or issues that you'd like to address if elected and why you believe they're important for Bremerton.
Okay. Housing, costs, accessibility, inventory. We need more of that. Health and addiction crisis facing our community, and aging infrastructure. So our streets, sidewalks, our water systems, our sewer systems, all are aging. They're getting older. These are important because they are part of the bedrock of our community and what we are responsible for here at local government. When we work on these issues and we get them, and when we resolve and make measurable progress and steps towards completion, we are actually knitting our community together. We are binding it together. This is the fabric of our community. Mental health and addiction affects all of us, and I'll go on to that. There'll be some other questions, I believe, at some point and further on in the campaign. I've done a whole bunch of work in this regard, all the way from Pendleton Place, which I championed. Would not be there if I had not taken the lead initially and put together stakeholders. We have medical respite centers coming in. There's, oh my gosh, we have the Salvation Army maintaining the shelter, more shelter work coming. But again, those 3 issues that I pointed out, those are the top, not the top 3, but there are no priorities are higher.
Thank you. On to question 2. What specific strategies will you put forward for decreasing homelessness in Bremerton? Please share what services you will support with funding for the already homeless in Bremerton, and what coalitions or outreach providers will you directly work with to help our homeless neighbors?
Okay, I've taken a few notes on this one, and this is one of the questions I get asked most on the doorsteps during the camp, and have been addressing on a daily basis since I've been in office. So again, Pendleton Place is an example of what we need more of, a project that I championed. And we're going to, between supportive housing, mental health and addiction treatment programs, transitional housing, housing of all types, case management out in the field. These are all programs and initiatives that I've championed and I've led. Medical Respite Center coming into downtown Bremerton. We need every aspect of this continuum to address this homeless crisis. And so I'm on record. I have a whole host of initiatives and programs I've championed or supported. The work will continue. We have to get through the elitist infighting that occurs when we try to locate one of these facilities. That has to stop. We need to point to data. We need to point to facts and information. We need to point to science when we are locating, and that being the basis of the decisions we make. So I'm proud to continue this work. I have a track record of accomplishments. It's easy to research on my website, and this has been a priority of mine. I'll continue to champion, and my record speaks for itself on what I've accomplished.
Thank you. Our final question. Please reflect on a decision you've made in a leadership position that you wish had a better outcome. What, if anything, would you have changed and why?
Okay. In 2017, during my campaign, the Warren Avenue Bridge, accessibility on the Warren Avenue Bridge was identified as a concern. Frankly, we do not have a multimodal path across that bridge with 3-foot wide sidewalks. I went to Olympia. I called on the relationships I've built over several years. I was able to secure support, build a coalition that led into funding, prioritization that led into funding in our pocket. I presented to our city council a project with 8-foot wide sidewalks on each side that would have been completed by now. The council chose a different path and wanted us to continue to explore other options and opportunities. So now, today, instead of having a bridge that would have been completed last year where we'd have already cut the ribbon, I have a bridge whose funding is in jeopardy. One of the things I probably would have done differently is continued to remind the council. And when I'm speaking to you right now, there's nothing else I could have done. We continually reminded the council that this funding is not there in perpetuity. We have to fight every year and every other year to maintain funding and priority. And today I can truly say that bridge is in jeopardy because of this, because of the council's action.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. And thank you for running for office and sharing your views.
You're welcome. It's been an honor.
I'm Linda Streiskuth. Thanks for watching. Please share this video with other voters and don't forget to return your ballot by 8 p.m. on Tuesday, August 5th. Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Linda Streiskuth, a member with the League of Women Voters of Kitsap. The League of Women Voters does not support or oppose candidates and works to provide information about candidates and issues before the voters. We are interviewing the candidates that will appear on your primary ballot, which you should receive in the mail mid-July. We are asking each candidate 3 questions. The candidates will have 90 seconds to answer each question. Now let's get to know Jeff Coughlin. Mr. Coughlin, you'll have 90 seconds to introduce yourself and tell us why you chose to run for the office of mayor for the city of Bremerton.
All right, so hey everybody, Jeff Coughlin running for mayor. I'm the son of a single working mom, raised both my brother and I on our own. I'm a long-term Bremertonian. I've been with my husband, Nick. We're married for over 15 years. He is a worker at the shipyard, and we're raising our young son, Max, in this community. Professionally, I'm a PhD astronomer. I'm a certified professional project manager, and I've worked on big things. I was at NASA for over 10 years, where I worked on the Kepler mission, 5 of those as a director. So I've managed big teams, big budgets, and worked across many organizations to get things done and communicate results. Locally, I volunteer as the director for the Kitsap History Museum right downtown. I'm on city council, and I've served as city council president, elected by my peers. And in that time, I've tried to work together to get the best ideas from our community and not be afraid to tackle the tough issues that Bremerton is facing as a growing city. And I'm running for mayor because I have not seen the incumbent do that. It's why I'm endorsed by every sitting city council member who's weighing in on this race, past mayors, several past council presidents, and leaders across Bremerton. I'm also endorsed by the Kitsap Central Labor Council and Washington Conservation Action. Also endorsed by LGBTQ Victory Fund and 314 Action, as I'd be the first openly gay mayor of Bremerton and its first scientist mayor. I know I have the skills, experience, and abilities to tackle our tough issues and really bridge a brighter Bremerton in this time of unprecedented growth and challenges.
Thank you, Mr. Coughlin. Now for our first question. Please share with us your top priorities or issues that you'd like to address if elected and why you believe they are important for Bremerton.
Thank you. Bremerton is facing real issues as a growing city that have not improved over the last 8 years under the incumbent mayor. First of all, public safety. We have to acknowledge there has been a rapid rise in crime. Crime in Bremerton has increased 10 times faster than the state. So we need more officers working hand in hand with our community at events and bringing back things like the bike patrol. And we also need code enforcement. One of the most important things is to address issues early before they become a problem. I met a couple whose home burned down just last year because of a fire that started next door. And that next door house had been reported as a nuisance property to the city of Bremerton for a decade, and nothing was done. And ultimately, a fire broke out due to folks in that building, and it consumed the folks I know, it consumed their house. And so we need to address issues early before they escalate. Second is housing. We've seen home prices for both renters and buyers just surge by 50% over the past 8 years. And we need more housing, all types of housing, while still preserving our green space. One of the first things we need to do is fix our city's broken permit system, which is a big barrier to that, as well as encourage smart zoning so that we preserve the character of our neighborhoods while making sure that everyone has a place to live. In transportation, we need to make sure we have a connected community where folks can live, work, and thrive. This includes not just cars, but folks who are hiking, biking, rolling, and strolling. We need to make it easier to connect. And finally, homelessness is an ongoing crisis that hasn't gotten better. I think we'll talk about that next.
Thank you. Yes, on to question 2. What specific strategies will you put forward for decreasing homelessness in Bremerton? Please share what services you'll support with funding for the already homeless in Bremerton, and what coalitions or outreach providers will you directly work with to help our homeless neighbors?
Absolutely. The key to addressing this growing crisis is collaboration with empathy. First, we need to rely on the experts, folks like Kitsap Community Resources, Bremerton Housing Authority, St. Vincent de Paul, and many others. For the past year, I've met with them every single week to work on a navigation center for Bremerton, a place that provides a continuum of care and housing so that folks have a true pathway out of homelessness. And we've made some great progress, and I've been able to secure some funding for them. In the meantime, the current mayor has refused to even meet with these folks to try and work on this solution. And so there are broken relationships with the city that need to be repaired. Second, I want to empower volunteer organizations and folks that are already on the ground doing great work and connected with bigger organizations. Things like Rock the Block and Bremerton Prayer Walk, to connect them with Common Streets, which is a city contracted provider, and many others. It's why I've regularly attended the Kitsap Housing and Homelessness Coalition over the past several years as a council member. And finally, as council president in 2023, I led a tough series of meetings to update our camping ordinance to match the best practices of other cities, because we cannot have folks in unsafe conditions. And there were folks in the street and the sidewalks, in people's yards, and blocking business entrances. And despite the hard work that went with the community to craft a reasonable ordinance, the current mayor wouldn't even sign it. At the end of the day, 16% of the county lives in Bremerton, but over half of those who are unhoused are in Bremerton. So this is a crisis that Bremerton is shouldering, and we can't go it alone. That's why we need a strong mayor who's not afraid to tackle tough issues and work with county and state.
Thank you. Our final question. Please reflect on a decision you've made in a leadership position that you wish had a better outcome. What, if anything, would you have changed and why?
So when I was a director at NASA, which it sounds a lot cooler than it is when it's endless meetings and behind a computer screen like most of us. When I was there, we processed these giant batches of science data to send out to the community so that folks could do their own research and make their own discoveries. And everything was on track until my team realized that there was a major flaw in some of the data that had already been out in the public domain for a couple of weeks, kind of a cosmic level oopsies. So what I did immediately was to work with my team to try and figure out every detail of how it happened, what the effects were, how we're going to fix it. And I was so focused on that for a few days to a week that what I did not do was just get the word out right away that something was wrong and give folks a heads up. And there were some ruffled feathers over that. And what I learned in that time is one of the best things you can do as a leader is to admit right away when something's wrong. Transparency isn't just the right thing to do, it's the fastest way to get folks on board and course correct. And of course, at the end of the day, we got it fixed, we communicated it to folks out there. But the true lesson learned is when something isn't right, acknowledge it right away, tell folks you're working on it. That's what earns trust. Everyone makes mistakes, and that applies to city leadership. No surprise to folks out there, government doesn't get it right every time. But what we have to do is acknowledge that we have true challenges in our city that we're facing, that when we don't do it right, we acknowledge it and we work to do it right at the end of the day, because leadership is both about honesty and collaboration.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Coughlin, for running for office and sharing your views. I'm Linda Streiskuth on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Kitsap. Thank you, viewers, for watching. Please share this video with other voters, and don't forget to return your ballot by 8 p.m. on Tuesday, August 5th. Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Linda Streiskuth, a member with the League of Women Voters of Kitsap. The League of Women Voters does not support or oppose candidates and works to provide information about candidates and issues before the voters. We're interviewing the candidates that will appear on your primary ballot, which you should receive in the mail mid-July. We're asking each candidate 3 questions. The candidates have 90 seconds to answer each question. Now let's get to know Marwan Cameron. Mr. Cameron, you will have 90 seconds to introduce yourself and tell us why you chose to run for the office of mayor for the city of Bremerton.
All right. Well, thank you, Linda, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for having me. This forum continues to prove how important it is to provide this space for folks to have access to candidates and try to move us to a better democracy. And I've tried to follow in the League's footsteps through the conduit. So I use the League as a model on trying to improve and get better. But to answer the question directly, hello everyone, I am Marwan Cameron. I am running for Bremerton Mayor, and the reason being is I've lived here since 1997, and I love the city of Bremerton like many of us do, and we've seen our city change in ways that we don't quite like in the past several years. And I believe that there is a way to right that ship and go in a different direction and continue to see Bremerton thrive and grow in a way that's prosperous for us and especially for our children. And so I think at this time that we find ourselves, we're at a precipice where we have to roll up our sleeves and we need to do some really deep thinking and take some pretty serious actions in our community to ensure that Bremerton is going to thrive for decades to come.
Thank you. And now for our first question. Please share with us your top priorities or issues that you'd like to address if elected and why you believe they are important for Bremerton.
Sure. So the 3 that I'm going to share with you is kind of a multi-pronged attack. So you have to do all 3 together, in my opinion. The first one I would say is economic opportunities. We need jobs. We need careers here in this area. We do have some thriving areas, our shipyard, our education system, and whatnot. But everyone isn't going to go into education or go into the shipyard. We have to consider creating training for the time that we find ourselves in, especially with the onset of AI and obsolescence in careers and fields that is so rapidly eroding, and we're not sure how that's going to happen. One way that we're going to address that is through safety. Substance use disorder is a big issue in the city of Bremerton. Our unhoused is a big issue that a lot of folks are talking about, and of course our affordable housing. And that's again where the job training comes in and the job opportunities are there. Folks without opportunities that feel hopeless tend to turn and find themselves falling through the cracks. The third thing is transportation. A lot has been done for our ferries, but our public transit and our private transit needs to improve. Kitsap Transit or Bremerton is very spread out, and our transportation is not frequent, accessible, or plentiful enough for folks to have a livable wage.
Thank you. On to question 2. What specific strategies will you put forward for decreasing homelessness in Bremerton? Please share what services you'll support with funding for the already homeless in Bremerton, and what coalitions or outreach providers will you directly work with to help our homeless neighbors?
Sure. So, currently our current mayor and city council are working on making the permitting process easier. I would like to explore creating opportunities for more non-traditional living. Again, as I said before, we need to find some different novel ways to increase our housing stock and to house our folks. We also are finding ourselves in a situation where housing isn't affordable. And so how can families and individuals team up to take on those high costs? So those are some specific things that I really want to address in that way. 2, again, that economic training. Think about Habitat for Humanity on steroids. If we are to train our carpenters, our plumbers, our electricians, our project developments, if we can home grow that, I think we can address many of the issues where we're saying, hey, developers can't afford to come here and build in Bremerton. It's too expensive. And so that solves 2 issues, right? It creates jobs and opportunities for folks. It helps folks to have gainful employment and make some different choices and not find themselves fall beyond fall through the cracks. And then lastly, who will I work with? I already work with so many people, whether it's Rock the Block or Kitsap Housing, Homeless Coalition, KCR Bremerton Housing Authority. But I think it's also important to work with up and coming folks that have ideas. The answer is going to come from everywhere, and you have to talk with everyone.
Thank you. Our final question. Please reflect on a decision you've made in a leadership position that you wish had a better outcome. What, if anything, would you have changed and why?
This is a tough one. For me, I would say that it was the porta potties down on ML King. Myself and several other people banded together and advocated the mayor and city council for porta potties down on ML King. We ended up getting those porta potties. Those porta potties were in my backyard from the county. I cleaned them. We got them down there. We paid the cost to have the porta potties down there. The city reimbursed us. But where I could have done better is fought more. We advocated with our voices. We went to city council and we said, hey, you need to continue to fund these porta potties. However, I really missed the mark with not going out and looking for grants, looking for other partners to maybe fund the porta potties to continue on and not look to the city solely to fund the porta potties. And so that is a big regret that I have looking at that. And had I fought harder in that situation, maybe there would be bathrooms down there today. And we think how important it is for the dignity for folks to have access to bathrooms. But also when you look at the other side, health and public safety with human waste going down our drains. And then lastly, also the safety for our children. You know, this was in the shadow of the Marvin Williams Center. And so you have youth and adults that are watching people use the bathroom in public. So that's my one regret from a leadership position.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cameron, for running for office and for sharing your views with us. I'm Linda Streiskuth. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Kitsap, thank you, viewers, for watching. Please share this video with other voters, and don't forget to return your ballot by 8 p.m. on Tuesday, August 5th. Thank you.
Thank you.